In 2024, marine biologists exploring the waters off the coast of Japan pulled up something from the deep that made them question everything we thought we knew about the limits of size in the ocean. What they discovered was a spider crab with a leg span measuring over 12 feet, nearly twice the size of any specimen previously recorded. The creature's claws alone were the length of an adult human arm, and its weight exceeded 50 pounds. 3 months later, researchers aboard the research vessel Falkor discovered footage of what appears to be a giant amphipod measuring nearly 15 inches in length, the size of a house cat. Most amphipods in shallow water are smaller than your fingernail. You are watching Science Revealed, and today we are diving into the mysterious world of deep-sea gigantism to discover why the creatures of the abyss grow to such terrifying proportions. For over a century, scientists have noticed something strange about life in the deep ocean. The deeper you go, the bigger things get. This is not your imagination. It is a real biological phenomenon called abyssal gigantism, and it completely defies what we know about how animals should behave under extreme conditions. In the crushing darkness of the deep sea, where temperatures hover just above freezing and the pressure could flatten a car like a tin can, life does not shrink to survive. Instead, it grows to proportions that seem impossible. The first scientist to document this was Henry Nottage Moseley during the Challenger expedition of 1872 to 1876. The crew pulled up creatures from depths no human had ever sampled before, isopods the size of dinner plates, sea spiders with leg spans of over 2 feet, amphipods that were 100 times larger than their shallow water cousins. In 1878, marine biologist Carl Moebius coined the term abyssal gigantism, but the mechanism behind it remained a mystery for over a century. Think about the giant squid for a moment. These creatures can reach lengths of 45 feet and weigh over 600 pounds. Their eyes are the size of dinner plates, the largest in the entire animal kingdom, measuring up to 11 inches in diameter. To put that in perspective, that is larger than a human head. These massive eyes evolved specifically to detect the faint silhouettes of prey and predators in the pitch-black waters of the deep ocean. Each eye contains millions of photoreceptor cells, making them incredibly sensitive to even the smallest amounts of light. When a sperm whale, the giant squid's primary predator, approaches from above, the squid can detect its massive shadow against the faint light filtering down from the surface. But the giant squid is not even the biggest invertebrate down there. The colossal squid, living even deeper in the Antarctic waters, can weigh up to 1,300 pounds. That is more than twice the weight of a full-grown lion and heavier than a grand piano. In 2007, New Zealand fishermen caught a colossal squid that measured over 30 feet long and weighed 1,090 pounds. When scientists examined this specimen, they found that it was not even fully grown. The beak was relatively small compared to the size of the body, indicating that this was likely a juvenile or subadult. A fully mature colossal squid could potentially reach weights of over 1,500 pounds. Now imagine encountering something like that in total darkness, knowing that its tentacles are lined with rotating hooks designed to dig into flesh and never let go. Each hook can swivel 360 degrees and is equipped with 3 sharp points that act like grappling hooks. Once these hooks dig into prey, there is virtually no escape. The squid's 8 arms are covered with hundreds of suction cups, each one capable of exerting tremendous gripping force. And at the center of all those arms sits a beak made of chitin, harder than most metals, capable of slicing through bone and cartilage with ease. That is the reality of the deep ocean, a place where size rules and the biggest creatures are often the most terrifying. Let me take you on a descent through the ocean zones, and at each level I will show you the giants that live there and explain why they have evolved to such massive proportions. We start at the surface where sunlight penetrates the water and life is abundant. This is the epipelagic zone, extending from the surface down to about 650 feet. Here, you will find familiar creatures like dolphins, tuna, and sea turtles. These animals are relatively normal in size. A great white shark, which is considered a massive predator, typically grows to about 15 to 20 feet long. Compared to what we are about to encounter in the deeper zones, a great white shark is practically small. As we descend past 650 feet, we enter the mesopelagic zone, also known as the Twilight Zone. This region extends from about 650 feet down to 3,300 feet. Sunlight here is so faint that it is almost useless for photosynthesis. The water temperature drops significantly, and the pressure begins to increase dramatically. This is where we start to see the first signs of deep sea gigantism. One of the most notable examples is the giant oarfish, a creature so bizarre that it has inspired countless sea serpent legends throughout history. The giant oarfish can grow up to 36 feet long, making it the longest bony fish in the world. Its body is ribbon-like and silver, with a bright red dorsal fin running along its entire length. When these creatures wash up on beaches, ancient sailors who saw these fish swimming near the surface likely thought they were encountering sea monsters. Another giant of the Twilight Zone is the Japanese spider crab. This creature is the stuff of deep sea horror films. Its leg span can reach up to 12 feet from claw to claw, and it can weigh up to 42 pounds. The 2024 discovery I mentioned earlier had a leg span of over 14 feet, shattering all previous records. These crabs can live for over 100 years, and during that time, they never stop growing. Unlike mammals, crustaceans continue to grow throughout their lives through molting. Every few years, a Japanese spider crab will shed its entire exoskeleton and grow a new, larger one. But there is another creature in the Twilight Zone that often gets overlooked. The lion's mane jellyfish reaches its largest sizes in the cold, deep waters of the Arctic and North Atlantic. The largest specimen ever recorded had a bell diameter of over 7 feet and tentacles stretching over 120 feet in length. That is longer than a blue whale. Now we descend deeper, past 300 feet, into the bathypelagic zone, commonly known as the Midnight Zone. This region extends from 3,300 feet down to 13,000 feet. Here there is no sunlight at all. The water is pitch black, the temperature is just a few degrees above freezing, and the pressure is so intense that it would crush a human body instantly. Yet life thrives here, and it thrives in giant form. One of the most fascinating examples is the giant isopod, a creature that looks like a massive pill bug. On land, isopods are tiny, usually less than an inch long, but in the deep sea, they grow to monstrous proportions. The giant isopod can reach lengths of up to 20 inches and weigh over 3 pounds. These creatures are scavengers, feeding on whatever dead material sinks down from the upper layers of the ocean. In 2023, researchers captured footage of a feeding frenzy involving hundreds of giant isopods on a whale fall at a depth of 6,000 feet. Scientists estimated that there were over 1,000 individuals feeding on this single carcass, suggesting that giant isopod populations might be much larger than previously thought. Then there is the giant grenadier fish, also known as the rat tail. This fish lives at depths of up to 7,000 feet and can grow to over 6 feet long. Its body is soft and gelatinous with a long tapering tail. The giant grenadier has enormous eyes adapted to detect faint bioluminescent flashes of prey in the darkness. Another remarkable giant is the bigfin squid, one of the strangest creatures ever discovered. This squid has tentacles that can extend over 26 feet in length, but unlike other squids, these tentacles are incredibly thin and delicate, almost thread-like. The bigfin squid drifts through the water with its tentacles dangling below it like fishing lines. The Greenland shark is perhaps one of the most remarkable examples of deep sea gigantism among vertebrates. These massive sharks can grow up to 24 feet long and weigh over 200 pounds, but what makes them truly extraordinary is their lifespan. Greenland sharks are the longest-lived vertebrates known to science, with some individuals estimated to be over 400 years old. That means there are Greenland sharks alive today that were born before the United States declared independence. But perhaps the most extreme example of deep-sea gigantism is found even deeper, in the Abyssal pelagic zone, which extends from 13,000 feet down to 20,000 feet. This is the abyss, a world so remote and so hostile that we have explored less than 1% of it. Here in the crushing darkness, we find the giant amphipod, a creature that makes the giant isopod look small by comparison. Some specimens of giant amphipods have been recorded at over 12 inches long, and unlike their shallow water cousins, which are smaller than a grain of rice, these creatures are armored predators. They have powerful claws, thick exoskeletons reinforced with aluminum extracted from seafloor sediment, and a voracious appetite. When a whale carcass sinks to the ocean floor, thousands of these amphipods swarm it, stripping the flesh in a feeding frenzy that can last for weeks. And then there are the giant tube worms, creatures that seem like they belong on an alien planet. These worms live near hydrothermal vents on the ocean floor where superheated water rich in chemicals pours out from cracks in the Earth's crust. The tube worms can grow up to 8 feet long and have no mouth, no stomach, and no digestive system. Instead, they have a specialized organ filled with bacteria that convert the chemicals from the vent water into nutrients. The worms and bacteria live in symbiosis, each depending on the other for survival. These creatures are giants not just in size, but in their ability to thrive in one of the most extreme environments on Earth. So why does deep-sea gigantism happen? Why do creatures in the abyss grow so much larger than their shallow water relatives? Scientists have proposed several theories, and recent research in 2024 and 2025 has given us a clearer picture. The first and most widely accepted theory is Bergman's rule, which states that animals in colder environments tend to be larger than those in warmer environments. Larger bodies have a smaller surface area to volume ratio, which means they lose heat more slowly. In the deep sea, where temperatures are just above freezing, being big is an advantage because it helps you conserve body heat. But there is more to it than just temperature. In 2024, a team of researchers at the Scripps Institution of Oceanography published a groundbreaking study that examined the cellular structure of deep sea giants. What they found was remarkable. The cells of deep sea creatures contain specialized proteins called piezolites, which are molecules that help stabilize cellular structures under high pressure. These piezolites allow cells to grow larger without collapsing, which is normally a limiting factor for cell size in shallow water organisms. The presence of these pressure-stabilizing molecules means that the physical environment of the deep sea actually favors the development of larger body sizes at the most fundamental biological level. The second theory is related to oxygen availability. In the deep ocean, the water is extremely cold, and cold water holds more dissolved oxygen than warm water. This means that even at great depths, there's plenty of oxygen available for large creatures to breathe. More oxygen means more energy, and more energy means the ability to grow larger. This theory is supported by the fact that the largest deep-sea creatures are often found in the coldest waters, such as the Antarctic, where oxygen levels are highest. However, recent research has revealed something unexpected. In 2025, marine biologists studying oxygen consumption in deep-sea organisms discovered that many deep-sea giants actually have lower metabolic rates than their shallow water cousins, despite having access to abundant oxygen. This seems counterintuitive, but it makes perfect sense when you consider the energy economics of the deep sea. Having abundant oxygen allows these creatures to grow large, but having a slow metabolism allows them to survive in an environment where food is scarce. It is a perfect evolutionary compromise. They can afford to be big because there is enough oxygen to support a large body, but they do not need to eat frequently because their metabolism is so slow. The third theory involves food scarcity and metabolism. In the deep sea, food is incredibly scarce. Most of the nutrients in the ocean are concentrated in the upper layers, where sunlight drives photosynthesis and creates the base of the food chain. As you go deeper, less and less food is available. This means that deep sea creatures have evolved extremely slow metabolisms to conserve energy. Growing larger is actually an advantage in this environment because larger animals have slower metabolic rates relative to their body size. A giant isopod can survive for months, even years, without eating. Its slow metabolism allows it to wait patiently for the next meal to fall from above. In contrast, a small, fast-metabolizing creature would starve to death in the same environment. In 2024, researchers conducted a fascinating experiment. They placed metabolic sensors on several species of deep-sea amphipods and tracked their energy consumption over a 6-month period. What they found was astonishing. These creatures were consuming energy at a rate nearly 100 times slower than similar-sized shallow water species. One giant amphipod went 237 days without eating, surviving entirely on stored energy reserves. When a food source finally became available in the form of a dead fish dropped by the research team, the amphipod consumed it voraciously, storing as much energy as possible for the next long period of fasting. The fourth theory is related to pressure. The deep sea is a high-pressure environment, and this pressure affects how cells function. In 2025, researchers at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution discovered that certain proteins in deep-sea animals are structured differently than those in shallow water species. These proteins are more stable under high pressure, which allows cells to grow larger without collapsing. This means that the physical properties of the deep sea environment actually favor the development of larger body sizes at the cellular level. But there is something else going on, something that scientists are only beginning to understand. In 2024, a team of marine biologists studying deep sea gigantism made a groundbreaking discovery. They found that many deep sea giants have unusually long lifespans. The giant isopod, for example, can live for over 20 years, which is extraordinarily long for a crustacean. The Japanese spider crab can live for over 100 years. The giant grenadier fish has been estimated to live for 50 years or more. This longevity means that these creatures have more time to grow. Unlike shallow water animals, which often face predation, disease, and environmental changes that limit their lifespan, deep sea creatures live in a relatively stable environment. The temperature does not change much. There are no storms. Predators are rare. This stability allows them to live longer and grow larger. The implications of this research are profound. It suggests that size is not just about adapting to environmental conditions. It is also about time. Given enough time in a stable environment, animals will naturally trend toward larger sizes. This is why the deep sea, which has remained relatively unchanged for millions of years, is home to so many giants. It is a world frozen in time where creatures have had eons to perfect the art of growing big. But deep sea gigantism is not just a curiosity for scientists. It has real-world implications for how we understand life on Earth and potentially on other planets. The conditions in the deep ocean, extreme pressure, total darkness, freezing temperatures, and reliance on chemical energy instead of sunlight, are similar to conditions we believe exist on moons like Europa, one of Jupiter's satellites. Europa has a global ocean beneath its icy surface, and if life exists there, it would likely resemble the chemosynthetic bacteria and extremophiles we find in Earth's deep ocean trenches. If deep sea gigantism is a universal phenomenon, then the oceans of Europa might be home to creatures even larger and stranger than anything we have discovered on Earth. The study of deep sea giants also has implications for conservation. Many of these creatures are incredibly vulnerable to human activity. Deep sea trawling, a fishing method that drags heavy nets across the ocean floor, destroys the habitats where these giants live. Climate change is also affecting the deep ocean, altering temperature and oxygen levels in ways that could disrupt the delicate balance these creatures depend on. And as we have seen with the Mariana Trench, human pollution has reached even the deepest parts of the ocean. Plastic has been found at depths of over 35,000 feet, and microplastics are now present in the tissues of deep sea animals. We are only beginning to understand the full extent of deep sea biodiversity, and we are already threatening it. In 2025, the International Union for Conservation of Nature released a report warning that many deep sea species are at risk of extinction due to overfishing and habitat destruction. The Japanese spider crab, despite its enormous size, is considered near threatened because of over-harvesting for food. The giant isopod and giant amphipod populations are declining as deep sea trawling operations expand into previously untouched areas. Even the giant tube worms, which live near hydrothermal vents, are at risk from deep sea mining operations that seek to extract valuable minerals from the ocean floor. The question is whether we will choose to protect these incredible creatures before it is too late. The deep sea is the last great frontier on Earth, a place where mysteries still outnumber answers. Every time we send a submersible to the abyss, we discover something new, something that challenges our understanding of what life can be. The giants of the deep are not just scientific curiosities, they are reminders that our planet is still full of wonders and that we have a responsibility to protect them. So what do you think is the most fascinating aspect of deep sea gigantism? Is it the sheer size of these creatures, the evolutionary adaptations that allow them to survive in such extreme conditions, or the fact that we are only now beginning to understand how they live? Let me know in the comments below, and if you want to learn more about the strange and terrifying creatures of the deep ocean, check out the video on screen now where we explore the darkest depths of the Mariana Trench and the life forms that exist there. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.